Hey, soul survivors, we're going to talk about some difficult things. So, I got a new filter. Let me know if you hate it or like it. So, hopefully, it'll soothe you while we talk about some difficult things. I just did a live chat and it was dealing with narcissistic abuse and when will this pain ever go away? How can we heal? Is this permanent? And I got a reply from somebody who's been watching the channel for around a year. And I've had some communication with her, and she's like, when will it stop? So I know she's still struggling, and I know a lot of us are. So I'd like to go over a couple things on how we can heal, some steps that we can take so it isn't permanent. So a lot of times, if you've been in a narcissistic relationship, we don't, we might not be the one that left the toxic relationship. Often we're the ones that get discarded, and we're the ones that were working and hoping things would get better. Often we can be blindsided too. So it can make us feel like we're left in the middle of the ocean with no way to anchor ourselves back to our lives, or no way to swim back to shore, that we feel helpless. We feel like we're drowning. So we can have intense confusion. We don't know why why they left us sometimes, because we tried to do everything right and it was never good enough. And we start looking within, like, what did we do wrong? We tried everything. And when you try everything, it kind of knocks down your self-esteem. Like, I did everything. There's nothing more I can do. How is that not good enough? So we have to stop kicking ourselves up over that we have to realize we were a good person. We did try everything. And, you know, we need to remember that the person we were with suffers from a mental illness. And it's not necessarily that they're choosing to act that way. Um, they can take control over their actions. They choose not to, and they choose not to because they are in survival mode. So just like when I was a burn victim, I ran. I didn't make a logical thought process. I was in survival mode and I made a mistake. I ran, which makes the fire worse. Also, I blocked it out. I don't remember it. It's not necessarily a choice. So did I choose to run at that time? It was like that fight or flight where your body takes over. So when they are going through like their rages and things, they just go into survival mode. And it gets really confusing. So we have to remember that we did our best. It's not our fault. And, you know, uh, when dealing with a narcissist, it's dealing with somebody with a mental illness. So due to their condition, they don't have the natural ability to progress in a relationship. There's no bonding stage with them. So uh, they have this dopamine high, and that's during that love bombing stage. And when they come down off of that, they get bored, or they might be overwhelmed with the negative feelings that are starting to surface. And that's what brings in the devaluation stage. And this is just across the board with all, it's the narcissistic cycle of abuse, that they don't have the bonding, so they don't go towards that connection, that they try to fill it with other things. They don't appreciate what they had because they didn't bond to it. It's real easy to throw things out that you didn't bond to. Go around your house. If you don't really want your sweater anymore, you throw it out. You don't mourn over it, but you might mourn over a sweater that your grandfather gave, and it has memorabilia type things, a connection. They don't have that connection, so they don't plan out to hurt you. Usually, sometimes they do. They just want the supply. They either want your popularity, your money, your clout. And it's interesting that the majority of narcissists have this similar pattern. And it's a psychological disorder. So the trauma that we've had from these relationships can lead to CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And to overcome this pain, it feels almost impossible. But we have to realize it's going to take time. And, you know, that there are 6 stages of healing after narcissistic abuse. And, you know, within the cycle of the abuse, you know, we have the love bombing, the idealization, the devalue, and then unfortunately the discard. So, you know, not everyone is a target to the narcissist. They want a combination of vulnerability. That's how they weasel their way in, and also some type of status or some type of uh, fulfillment to fulfill their supply needs. And um, you know, when we're healing, we have to uh, go through some things that are going to be extremely painful sometimes. And, you know, it's a process. And like I said, it's going to be difficult. There are a few stages that we have to go through. It doesn't have to be in a specific order. And luckily, we don't have to experience them all. Some of us do, some of us flip-flop between the different stages. But the stages I'm going to talk about are the most commonly experienced ones after an abusive relationship with a narcissist. So if we can get through these stages, the ones that we need for healing, we can break free. And it's up to us, you know, when we're in denial, how long we stay in denial. We can prolong it or we can accept it. So we have to look at it logically instead of emotionally. A lot of us will feel helpless, out of touch with reality. We love this person so much, and we don't want to accept that, you know, they didn't have that connection, and it hurts that we were easily discarded sometimes. But we can't let them dictate our self-worth, which is really important. That you know, don't be jealous of the new supply, because they're not going to bond with that person either. It's going to happen to them whether they stay together or not. You know, it'll still be an emotional discard and not a true bond. So we shouldn't be jealous of that. You know, we want somebody who truly loves us and is willing to be there for us. So over the time, we were dependent on our narcissist for our happiness because of the intermittent reinforcement. So we use cognitive dissonance, and it feels safer to blame ourselves for the abuse instead of accepting that we fell in love with somebody who had the ability to be so horrible to us. And it's not a conscious decision. It deals with human psychology. A lot of people will experience this after a traumatic event. A lot of people go through that denial stage. That's just normal. So if you recognize that's what state you're in, where you're hoping, you know, a lot of times you might start to bargain where you're you know, making a deal like, if I do this, will they come back? If I'm thinner, will they come back? If I do this, if I go back to school, if I get this job, you know, if I change my boundaries, let's say you never wanted kids, now you're like, okay, I'll accept it and we'll have kids. You have to stay true to yourself. So there can be guilt that we're going through. And the reason I'm talking about the different stages is we have to go through them. And this is what we're looking at in order to come out ahead and to kind of rewire our brains and to stop the rumination and missing out on our lives. So our narcissists take a lot of their life's frustrations out on their victims, and they often project things like failures, disappointments, and hurt onto the other person that they are targeting. So you have probably gone through a lot of things that were abusive, that weren't your fault. And, you know, the narcissists will, on their core target, everything that's wrong, that goes wrong, all the imperfections that they see within themselves, the things that they cannot fix, they will blame on you. Narcissists are in that childlike mentality, childlike emotional state, that they don't want to feel it, they don't want to process it, they don't want to accept it, so they have to get rid of that feeling. They get rid of that feeling by putting it onto you. And we take a lot of that, and we end up internalizing it because we hear it day in and day out, that we start to feel maybe it was our fault. They keep saying it. Is that gaslighting that they do, which changes our reality. So when we leave this relationship or we're discarded, we still have that burden. We feel guilty, that we couldn't fix everything because they made everything our fault. So we feel like we should have done more. We've already done everything we could. Without the empathy, without the bond, it's not going to work. So shame is something that can keep us trapped within this emotionally abusive relationship. Shame will keep us from moving forward after getting out of it. So, we have to realize, if we're embarrassed that we were left, that we feel that that's a reflection on us, that we have to realize, that we were good people. We did the best that we could. If that we have to believe that within ourselves. We can't get our self-validation from outside people. Luckily, in today's day and age, divorce is a little bit more accepted in a way. So you don't have to feel so ostracized that, that you're a failure, that it doesn't happen to anybody else. But, a lot of us wanted that relationship. And, sometimes we have to realize that the shame can drive us back to the narcissistic partner. And we have to remember it's just going to be a continuous cycle. And we have to realize, sometimes we're like, we're so down and out right now that we just want to stop the pain. So sometimes we're tempted to go back, but that doesn't mean it's going to be healthy. It doesn't mean we're going to be happy. It just means we go back into the cycle of abuse, to somebody who's not bonded to us and somebody who's not bonded to anybody. So no matter what you do, it's going to be superficial. And when something's superficial, it's going to crack. It's not going to be strong enough to weather the storm. So try to let go of the embarrassment if you feel that, or any shame, because, we have to realize that, them acting out, lashing out, raging, deals with who they are, not who we are. And, it can hurt when other people are like, why didn't you leave earlier? Why did you allow him to treat you that way? And, it's hard when you're trying to make something work, that you love the person. Just like, we got to remember too, they are like children, so if you have a child and your child is like, I hate you, mommy, you don't get rid of the kid. If the kid throws a little temper tantrum and slaps you, you don't get rid of the kid. You try to make it better. So a lot of us want to make things better. We want to heal or guide our narcissist, but they're adults and they're stuck in their ways. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, especially when they don't want to change and they're not willing to put in the effort. So, uh, in their mind, somebody asking that, like, why didn't you leave earlier? Is not always cold-hearted. Sometimes they do want to understand, but we might take it as them blaming us for the abuse that we allowed it. And that can intensify the feelings of shame. So perception is everything. And another stage you're going to go through is anger. A lot of us are angry, like, why did this have to happen? We're good people. You talk about karma, bad things happen to bad people. Why can't good things happen to good people? And it seems like everything's working out for the narcissist. But once we free ourselves from this abusive relationship, we can start to look back and we can question, how do we overlook the red flags? How do we even get involved with somebody who could be so cold? And we can get angry, sometimes at ourselves, not even just a situation, but angry with ourselves that we didn't realize what was happening. We can get angry for the lost time that we could have been investing in a healthier situation. And, you know, some people are angry that, you know, that our narcissists often can convince our friends, our family that, you know, we're the bad person in all this. And it can be quite hurtful, and we can become isolated. So the more you evaluate what has happened to you, the angrier you will become. So it takes finesse on how we deal with the anger that we have. So when we wallow in it, the deeper we get into it, there's more anger. So if we can kind of encompass it and realize that we have every right to be angry, uh, and when we set that anger free, it's going to be uplifting. So instead of analyzing everything, we know what happened, and we have to realize that's what is. And that's hard to do because we're going to come up with all these different reasons, but the reasons aren't going to change anything. So we can go into depression, and it is a form of emotional abuse. And, you know, a lot of times, most cases, the narcissist didn't even physically abuse you, but the emotional abuse can leave residual effects that can lead to severe depression. It can cause us to feel heavy, like a weight is on us, and sometimes we want to just sleep the pain away. We lose motivation, and we realize, you know, some people will have insomnia, that they can't sleep, that or it can go through cycles. So, you know, some days you won't be able to eat, other days you will overeat. So we have to um, take self-care. We have to regulate that instead of doing emotional eating or under eating, that we kind of keep on track, that we have the self-love to keep ourselves healthy. So some will feel a disconnect, and you know, sometimes we won't even feel anything, just numb. I know I would pace, and I'm like, what am I doing? You feel lost. And so when we get into this dark stage, it's almost impossible for us to see any light. And this is when we start to believe that, you know, this is going to be where we're stuck forever. Um, so there are cycles with depression. And sometimes the moment that we think we're getting better, it kind of creeps up back on us and brings us right back to some of our worst days. So recovery, this is where it's important. When is it going to get better? When we make the decision that only we can make. So when we go through these stages, after we go through them, we get to a point where we just want to get better. We don't want to think about it anymore, that we want our lives back. So we want to put it all behind us. We have to make that conscious decision. Do we want to be sad all the time? Or would we rather start living again? So everyone's different. There's no exact timeline when we're going to get to that point. If you can try to motivate yourself, if you can, you know that you don't feel like yourself, and to have that desire to get back to being you, because that's why we hurt. We are not ourselves. We are not sad people. We are not worthless people, but we're feeling like that. We're allowing them to put those thoughts into our head because of the situation, and how they knocked us down, that we have to raise our self-esteem. There's different ways to raise our self-esteem, to start doing some more self-care. So sometimes, you know, professional help can definitely help. also educating ourselves. I'm here if you guys have any questions or would like some guidance. I also do live chat one-on-ones. And as this channel grows, when I get 5,000 subscribers, I want to start doing some conventions where we can meet in person. But, recovery is possible. So during the love bombing stage, we were made to feel really special that, um, it felt like perfect, that nothing was wrong, that one day, we'd either get married or have children, or it would be a relationship that would last forever because it seems so perfect. So when you get to that devaluing stage, our partner categorically denies, the things that were promised. They had that future faking for us, and they start to tear you down. They start to use things against you that are very cruel. And then after they hurt you, they're going to revert back to the love bombing stage. They start talking about the future again, and it gets really confusing. So, you spent you can go through some loneliness, but the PTSD or complex CPTSD, it was a form of psychological abuse, and there is trauma. And trauma is just any experiencing that threatens your sense of security or safety. So, when you are in a relationship with somebody who suffers from a personality disorder, whether it's borderline or bipolar, any even any different kinds of mental illnesses, that it's stressful. You never, now with a narcissist though, is you never know where you stand. Your emotions are unstable after being with them. You're in a heightened state of alert at all times because when you're with them, uh, you're walking on eggshells, and it can kind of linger. The anxiety can linger. So even when you start to calm down, your body is still processing it because the mind-body connection. So uh, post-traumatic symptoms could include having flashbacks or nightmares. You might be unable to control your emotions. Um, Sometimes people have suicidal fantasies or thoughts. If you struggle with that, 988 is the suicide hotline in America. One is our country code. I'm not sure if you can reach it from other countries, but one is the country code. Destructive coping strategies can happen. So be careful not to dabble in drug or alcohol abuse. Be careful with self-harm or eating disorders, and try not to rely on even prescription medications to self-soothe. You might get some physical ailments, irritable bowel syndrome, dizziness, chest pains, your stomach might hurt. You might have pounding headaches or dizziness at times, and you can be extremely tired and fatigued. And this is why it's so important to start healing. These are all symptoms, even dissociation, feeling disconnected, zoning out, or feeling numb. We're missing out on a lot of our lives. We can have shame or guilt, and it can bring us into a negative state where we're thinking about the worst in every situation, that now we're living in a pessimistic lifestyle instead of an optimistic lifestyle. So we have to start working on little challenges, seeing the successes that we have, even if it's something like, oh, my fried egg turned out perfect today, and, celebrating the little things and living in the moment instead of living in the past. So not everyone who has suffered from narcissistic abuse from a narcissist will get CPTSD, but it's a serious condition. And, therapy can definitely help. So, allow yourself to feel your emotions, even if they are painful. And this is how you are going to heal from it, for a period of time. Allow yourself to work through it. You can't be in that denial stage. You can't be in the bargaining stage. That when we grieve, we let it out. We deal with it. We don't push it aside until it starts to get to the point where we're like, I got to buckle down and realize, accept. You get to the acceptance stage, but you do have to process your emotions. And there'll be a time when you're like, I have to realize that this is the past. Acceptance gets faster when you release all that emotional energy that you stored inside. So that's why crying helps. That's why screaming sometimes helps. Try not to scare your kids. Do it. Maybe get a babysitter and cry. You might need some time. Because you don't want to traumatize kids if you have them. But talk to people who are going to understand. Make sure they understand narcissistic abuse. Otherwise, it will be futile. That it's okay. You're gonna think about the good and the bad times. It's like watching a movie. That if you let it play out in your memory of the good and bad times, and then bring it to the end. So you're not wondering, how does it turn out? You can see where you are now. That's the end stage, and that's the time to accept it. The show's over. So when you stop the grieving cycle before you're ready to, you don't know. There's always that question: what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? But when you process it and you bring it to the end, which is today, there's no need to keep going over that movie again. You've already seen it, and it's time to find a new movie in your life, as an analogy. So sometimes it might be helpful if you express yourself in a letter, get all those emotions out on paper, and say a final goodbye. And it's not going to do any good to give it to them. But it's good to get those emotions out. It gives you some closure. A lot of times with the narcissist, we don't have closure or true really a real, like, acceptable explanation on why they did us dirty. So we have to realize that, we might have some negative beliefs because of the abuse. We can feel extremely insecure. Narcissists are extremely good, unfortunately, at making the victim feel unworthy, that we spent months possibly hearing we're stupid or ugly or fat. And some of them just make you feel that way too, through the silent treatment, that you're not worth acknowledging. So when we go through something or hear something, we start to believe it. And that's why, be careful of the people that you surround yourself with. That we have to remember that the things they say about us are a reflection of them. And those hurtful words we have to replace with positive affirmations, that we are attractive, we are intelligent, we will achieve our dreams, or we've already come so far. And we have to realize we are deserving of love. So you can, say those positive affirmations in front of the mirror, or write yourself cute little notes, buy yourself some orange juice and leave yourself a little sticky note. Bought this for you because I know you love it. Or just little silly things you can do. It's good to change our perspectives. Nobody wants to be stuck in the pain. And if we can change our perspective of it. So we know what narcissism is, and we can also help. We can change it into an advocacy, to where we help friends, family members spot red flags, and A lot of people who overcome difficult situations, they use their pain to fuel their purpose in life. I know for me, starting the YouTube channel has helped with my healing, gives me a purpose, turns my pain into something to help others. So you can even think, in it that way, that sometimes you can become passionate about helping others overcome abuse, or just being a better friend to other people, or becoming a motivational speaker, author, therapist, or just a really good friend. But we have to remember it's not easy to move on, but it is possible. It does take a lot of mental energy to heal the wounds. So we have to realize we're in it. We're in for a marathon. And if you're determined, you can live a fulfilling life again. So one thing you can do is, you know, stay single for a little while, that it takes time to heal. And we have to focus on ourselves for a little bit. We can't just jump into a new relationship. That's what the narcissist does. They don't take any time to heal. And if you jump from relationship to relationship, it's a coping mechanism. It's a way of masking the pain, and it'll leave you vulnerable. You can run the risk of entering into another abusive relationship. So it can be a big part of the healing process, to where we need to love ourselves instead of finding somebody else to love us. That's not going to fulfill our own self-love. When we have our self-love, we're going to uphold our boundaries. We're going to know what our boundaries are, and it trickles into where it all works out. But if there's vulnerability or insecurity, that causes triggers in both parties. So be kind to yourself. And some people want to get rid of any pictures, gifts, text messages, cards. um, you know uh, it depends on where you are. Are you strong enough to put them somewhere, or is that gonna be an anchor to them? um, I know sometimes they say to throw them out. I still have pictures of my ex, and um, we have a daughter together. I just have them put away. I don't have them out. um, and I think a lot of the reason I keep them is uh, for my daughter. Should I give them to her? um, I haven't given them to her because she's in those pictures, and those are my memories too, and she will have those, or she has copies of them. But depends on where you are in that. If it holds you back, you might want to get rid of it or give it away to somebody. Learn to listen to yourself. And sometimes it's almost like we hear different voices, whether it's our inner thoughts, or from our friends or our family members. And often, the people we know think that they have this perfect solution to help us get over this relationship. So if that starts to get uncomfortable with the advice that they give you, um, we don't have to take it. We need to do what feels right for us. Life will look very different. And now that you're no longer in an abusive relationship, sometimes we're fearing the unknown, but we can plan for some of the unknown. you know um Decide where you want to live. Decide job aspects, or activities. If we're scared, what's next week bring? Set some things up. Next week brings swimming lessons, or a walk on the beach with my friend Melissa, or whatever it is, that you can have some security and control. And we have to change feeling like a victim, even though we were. But we need to get out of the victim mentality and see ourselves as victorious, that we are warriors, we are soul survivors. And there are going to be times when the pain feels worse than others, but by that little mind shift, that, you know, looking at, you know, like I can look at it as I'm a burn victim. I have scars. I'm not uh, perfect anymore. That's not the right word, but you guys know what I mean. Or like I am so lucky that I survived something so traumatic. I'm uh confident enough, you know, that I'm not gonna, you know, I still wear a bikini at the beach that I got lucky. They're not terrible scars. Pronounced, but not terrible. But I have the confidence to just be me and I'm not missing out on life. And I can get a good tan, you know, so I can hide if I choose to hide behind things. Or I can just buckle down and realize that I'm the best me that I can be. And it's a different way of enjoying. I could hide and not enjoy the beach as much, or I could get out there and enjoy it, regardless of what people think. And it's a I hope that's a good analogy of the way we're going to enjoy our future. If we're victorious, self-confident, higher self-esteem, that we're going to have a better life. And it takes time. It's up to us. And depending on how willing you are to allow yourselves to go through the steps, that's where the answer lies on how long it will take. So lots of love to you guys. I know it's hard. Topic requests are welcome. I do one-on-ones. We do live chat. And let me know if you like this filter. It's kind of calming to me, but I don't know if you guys like it. Want to make you guys happy too. All right. Please like and subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you will be notified of new material. Thanks so much for watching. See you soon.